Okay, so a lot has happened since I talked last. A lot has happened. So, anyways, somebody's staying here now. So Trixie doesn't have to be with me all the time. And then I also had company. And so for the past, because it's Memorial Day weekend, it was like a 4-day weekend or something. So it was like 3 solid days, I'd say, of hanging out. And this is like me having this totally different reality than anyone else in the whole thing. It's trippy. It's like when they talk about things, because they talk about some of the things, that they think are like super real. You try and be like, yeah, but none of that's real, you guys. That's all part of the system. That's the corporate world that's failing right now. It's all gonna collapse. That's the end of all of this. We're going into something new. And I just sound like the most craziest person to them. They just can't even, like, no way. And but they don't know any of this stuff that's going on. Like, and one thing I noticed, and I talked about this before too, was that some of the people, it seems like, are going through their own stuff, and it's helping them to kind of like go through the dark night or whatever. Like, all of the stuff that is going on like the world stage is going to affect people in different ways, because a lot of people have their own stuff going on too. And a lot of the people, the only reason they were even paying attention to the news was because they kept saying that they were drawing so much attention to the orange guy to try and create this narrative so that we would all, not listen to him and think he was crazy when he was trying to tell us like what's going on behind the fucking curtain. And it it takes a lot to listen to somebody you think is crazy. So, when all of that was being manipulated, those people paid some attention. But as soon as that guy was gone, they stopped paying attention. They don't fucking know anything that's going on. And they sure don't dig in and see if there's things going on behind the scenes that they're being told this is going on, but really it's another thing, because it's always a distraction, it's always an illusion, it's always bullshit, it's manipulation, programming. And see, they haven't seen through that part. So that part everybody's gonna have to see through, and I think there's gonna be something big that's gonna happen that's gonna kind of force that issue for everyone to be like, what the fuck? Because so many of us have seen it, and every day another person adds on, another person adds on. Like, if you go on a Charlie Ward's Just main page where people just join because they want to find out more information about some of the stuff, and his thing's free, I mean, anybody can join, and it goes up. Like, I think it goes up. It's up to like 13.5 million last week. So it's probably over 14 at this point. But that's how fast it goes up, like 1 million a week. It's 1 million a week or so of people waking up to being like, okay, there's something going on here that they're not telling the truth. Like, they're seeing, like, I need to look into something. And that many more people every week is adding on. I go on just to check his counter, just to see, is it still going? I mean, like, what's going on? So I'll go on and look, and his... every time it joins, it just keeps adding. And it's like, fuck, almost 14 million followers. And when I started following him, he had like 37. When the people who are out there trying to get information, like, he has so many different people. He's giving a lot of people a voice. So there's a lot of information that if people are looking for truth or whistleblowers or stuff like that, you can go there, and he's got tons of videos of all sorts of people trying to get messages out. So, that many more people are waking up every day. So it's not like this is going to stop. And, if you pay any attention to astrology and cosmic significance of the stars and the whole thing, and ancient texts that has been profiting this, prophets, mediums, psychics, channelers, everybody has been prophesizing this. And you can look at the patterns of the ages if you don't understand, and then to understand, the transformation into the new age, what has to happen. So you can look all that stuff up and, just look up stuff and figure out what makes sense to you. Because I know what makes sense to me, and I can share it and talk about it and try and, give other people information so they can go look into stuff. I'm not trying to be anybody's prophet, that's for sure. I'm just saying anybody can go out there and look. And what I've seen from the information I've been looking at through my whole life, just so many pieces started to fit together, especially over 2020. There's so much clarity. Definitely that year was the year of clarity. And I think, that a lot of people had clarity. They just haven't seen through the lies and the manipulation. Like right before my daughter left, she's like, oh yeah, and you try and tell me the letters, there's so many words you can't say now that they try and target you. But it's a communist, but it's the one that's running the world right now, is being used by the cabal to take over everything because it's all about control. And so the ones that are, and she's like, oh, you could try and tell me that they're in Canada right now and they're going to march over. It's like, yes, you guys, we're in the middle of a war. I don't know how you can't see it. What are you? And that's where you start being like, man, when the truth starts really slamming these, it's out there. And so many of us can see it's just weird when it's like how much do you block out? How much do you just look for the information that is going to confirm your own beliefs? I constantly tell people, if you're trying to get the whole picture, go talk to people who you don't agree with. You've got to hear the other side to get the whole picture. You can't just focus on your side and think you've got the full picture. That's not how this works. You've got to dig into things if you need to see what's happening, and you've got to look at the side that you don't agree with. You have to talk to more people. Don't just talk to people who agree with you. And you don't have to argue and try and convince them. I spend so much time just watching their conversations, just listening. I didn't say a fucking word. It's easy to do on social media. You just go on and listen and watch the conversations. You start watching over and over these patterns of what they're talking about. You start getting a much bigger picture. You don't need to go in and try and convince oh, these people don't know anything. No, you're being manipulated to think something about these people that isn't true, whatever the other side is. And they've got just this division thing going so well that people, they think that they need to convince somebody of their side instead of just listening and using it for your information. You are trying to take care of you. You don't need to worry about them and trying to convince them of whatever. It's not your problem. And that, I've seen that over and over and over. I've gone through every part of that, so I can share that with utter confidence. Yeah. And people will find their own paths. And when you go down to the soul part of it, is the soul had this planned out. Everything that a person's going through, they thought, okay, when this happens, this will wake me up. I know this will happen, and I will, they all have it. And it probably is very true that some of them did want to just experience that part of life before this changeover, because it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough on a lot of people, man. And I'm so thankful there's going to be so much technology, because that's going to help so many people with healing. And when I've talked about, I was just telling this to somebody else, about the healing, the med beds and stuff like that, and you have to have your frequency up. It is, I think that is basically saying, it's not like, everybody talks about this frequency thing. I think it kind of confuses people when they don't really understand. But I take it, so I'm just going to share this, is so if you go in and, you're 300 pounds overweight, and you're going to stop by McDonald's on the way home, and you are, doing a CPAP, rather than exercising and all that stuff, then you aren't living this in balance mind, body, soul kind of thing. You know, you're abusing your body, you're not taking care of it, you're not listening to it. It's definitely talking to you. If you're on a CPAP machine, your body's saying, hey, I can't fucking breathe here. I have to take care of something. Don't just stick another machine. Don't just give me a pill and think it's going to work out. It won't. I've said before, like, they had me on 18 pills. I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And, you know, going off of all of that and just focusing on my health. And I started out with just like really slamming the smoothies constantly because I had seen where people had cured themselves from cancer. And I knew I had to withdraw off all of that poison that they had me on, telling me it was curing me, and it wasn't. So, you know, you got to listen to your body. It's super, super important. And, but, you know, if people are sitting there abusing their bodies and not taking care of them, and they think, well, you know, I'll just go in that machine this weekend, detox, and go about my day, that's how it's not going to work. That's how I take it. That's low vibration. That's not connecting with yourself, taking care of yourself, and doing something because it's the right thing. It's playing games. And games won't be in the next thing. That's not going to be a part of the next experience in the new age that we're moving into. So a lot of the things are going to be, you know, like, they're being exposed now so we can see them and see. There's a lot of yuck, a lot of ways that people interact. It's just yucky. It's low vibration. And, you know, since this one's only kind of short, it seems like a lot of people like kind of short ones. I'm going to do this one, but I'm going to go and I'm going to talk about some more stuff. So I'm going to do a couple more back to back. So I'll stop here. And so I'll go ahead and say, have a great day. And, you know, remember, you just have to work on you, because that's the only person here you're going to be able to fix. And you can turn yourself into your ideal. And, you know, you'll find your other ideal. You don't have to be like, oh, so many people, they're in like these shitty relationships and they're like, oh, so I have to fix myself to fix the relationship. Well, no, how it's really going to work is you're going to fix yourself, and then you're going to look at that relationship and say, hey, I don't vibe with this anymore. I deserve better. And you're going to go and find somebody who vibes with you, who also is on that wavelength, who like, yeah, I'm not going to put up with shit like that anymore. And you raise the bar. You set a standard for each other. You raise the bar, you know. You can find people out there willing to come to your bar. You don't have to keep lowering it and going down to others' level. Bring them up to yours. Learn who you are so you know where to set that bar. Okay, I'll be back in a minute, actually.